Authenticity is not about being opinionated. You may think it is speaking your mind, but authenticity goes much deeper. This is Dr. Spencer Coaches. Today I'm going to talk to you about why just being opinionated is not being authentic. Because when you're being opinionated, you're just pushing your viewpoints onto other people. It's just a reaction. You're only expressing out of reaction. Now, it's good to have an honest opinion about something, an honest viewpoint, and have a stance in something. But when you have an opinion about everything, you come across as a Mr. or Mrs. Know-it-all. And it's very judgmental. And judging is not your authentic self. It's an aspect of you because you need to know what's right for you and what's valuable to you and what isn't valuable to you. But there's more to being a human being than just being judgmental. And here's what I mean. When you begin to love, when you begin to explore your core values, when you begin to express what's really important to you, what do you really care about, what do you really value, that is where your authenticity comes from. And it usually comes from the heart. It usually comes from a place that's deep inside of you that transcends the judgmental mind. It's a state of transcendence. It's a state of altruism. It's a state that expresses love. It expresses what's really important to you, the impact that you want to have. That's what's important to you. That's what truly matters to you. And if something is not in alignment with that, then you have an opinion about it. But just being critical of people and situations, that's not really being authentic. Because underneath it, you're really afraid. Now, admitting your fear, that would be authentic. Being opinionated and saying, well, I don't like it because, and if you just have some shallow criticism, well, then you're just afraid. Now, if you have an educated understanding on something and you want to give your honest opinion because you're educated, you're knowledgeable in a subject, well, that's different. You're giving your expert opinion. But just having an opinion and always being opinionated, that's not authentic. Now, speaking your mind, yes, that is a healthy thing to do. You should always speak your mind. Always be honest and transparent so people know who you are and where they stand with you. It's inauthentic to not let someone know where they stand with you. That ambiguity is not a sense of certainty. It's a sense of you don't know who you are and therefore you don't know who the other person is to you. Or you can't admit something and you're actually hiding something. And that's not authentic. Saying that, hey, listen, I don't feel comfortable talking about this. Now that's authentic because you're expressing a boundary. That's authentic. But not saying anything because you're afraid to say what you really think, that's not authentic. Now, I'll share with you because when I was younger, I was so opinionated. I had something to say about everybody and everything. And it was usually something bad, something critical. You're a poser, something really judgmental. Now, in grade school, people look up to you for that because you're not afraid to speak some things that everyone's thinking. But as I approached middle age, I realized those things don't matter. What really matters is connection with people, contribution, integrity, loyalty, honesty. How much improvement can I bring to the table? How much contribution? That's what really matters. What impact did I have on the lives around me and the people around me? Expressing hate, expressing anger all the time, sure, you can call it somewhat authentic because you're really feeling that way. But what you're really feeling underneath it, Now that's authentic. Because underneath that anger, you could be grieving. You could be disappointed. But you want to appear strong, so you express anger. Or you want to express like you know what you're talking about, so you talk out of your butt, you make things up, and express it without any kind of check. There's no filter. You know, sometimes there's no filter on someone's mouth, and you see what happens, they're ranting. You know, the Karens and the Kens out there. And that's not really authentic. You'd say there's something wrong with that person. They're mentally and emotionally disturbed. Something's going on underneath it that they're not voicing. Sometimes it's what the person isn't saying that reveals what it is that's going on. Sometimes being silent is authentic because you know you have nothing nice to say. Nothing that will transform the situation to make it better. Complaining. You know, just chronically complaining is not being authentic. It's basically a deflection. It's a cover-up for how you're really feeling. And if you're chronically complaining, always whining, something else is going on underneath it that needs to come out that isn't. And you may not be aware of it. You could be in denial. It may take something like somebody pointing it out to you. You know, they say, take a look in the mirror. You know, we all have moments of inauthenticity, not following through with what you say, making excuses. That's inauthentic. Not following through with commitments. You know, there's a saying, are you your word? Is your word your bond? Being emotionally driven can often make us reactive. It may appear to be authentic because it's an emotional reaction and it's what you're really feeling, but it's just a reaction. It's not a very mature state. It often comes out across as immature, as childlike. If a child reacts, cries, has outbursts, you would say, well, it's just a child, it's normal. But when a grown adult is like that, you say, they're emotionally unstable. Something's wrong with them. When you're able to respond with dignity, with respect, with integrity, you understand what needs to be said rather than what you want to say. Because you're not there to vent. You're there to maintain social harmony. You're there to maintain dignity. You're there to maintain integrity. You say, I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking clearly. In fact, I've had something happen to me and I didn't deal with it. And I let that get the best of me because my mind was preoccupied. I'm sorry I couldn't give you my full attention. What did you say again? You expressed your true disposition. That's authentic. That's being transparent, expressing your intentions. Hey, I'm talking to you because I want to ask you something. Because I want to find out whatever it is you want to find out. Expressing your intentions is authentic. Beating around the bush is not authentic. So you get an idea of where I'm going with this. There's a fine line between just expressing anything that's on your mind and expressing what you really mean. If you can't express what you really mean, you're deflecting and beating around the bush, and that's not authentic. You may fool the unwise. You may fool the immature. But those that know better understand. They might not call you out out of respect for you because they know you're just deflecting and you're just not ready to share what you really feel or what you really mean. Fear of vulnerability. That's what it boils down to. You see, the complaining, the overly opinionated, the I know everything is really just a cover-up for something underneath. That's on the surface, the complaining. There's usually a feeling of inadequacy or confusion. Could be insecurity. It could be being upset. There's usually some bad feeling that you avoid processing, so it comes out in the form of being opinionated, of complaining, of whining, of judging. That's not who you are. That's just your reactive mind. You're just reacting to the world, emotionally reacting like a knee-jerk reaction. Your expression is stifled or it's unclear. And how can people trust you? How can people really know you if you never express your true voice? Now, we all go through this. We're only human. I've gone through this myself. I thought I was being authentic, but really I was just judging and complaining because I felt confused and afraid. I wasn't seeing my world with open eyes and clarity. I was assuming. And in the assumption, I made judgments without actually gaining understanding of the situation, primarily in the classroom, in school. In the past, for some reason in school, it would haunt me. I'd become very judgmental, very critical of people, point out people's weaknesses, and express that. Some people say, Spencer, you're right. They are like that. But it's a very shallow viewpoint of people, just to criticize them without getting to know them. It was my way of appearing strong when underneath it, I was afraid and confused. And now that I know I was afraid and confused, what was I afraid of? Revealing that I was confused. So now what I do is I just say, what did you mean by that? No, I don't understand. And flat out tell people I don't understand. Can you elaborate? Where are you coming from? Well, what do you mean by that? And they usually are more than happy to share with me what they mean. And then my presumption goes away and I go, oh, okay, wow. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't realize that. Just expressing my natural disposition. So it doesn't come across as threatening, judging, or demoralizing. Usually opinionated people are pretty angry. They have like, I'm going to fight and stand up for myself and stand up to anyone. Because at some level they feel wronged and they need to stand up for themselves, even though there's no fight. They're defending against nothing. They often become very defensive. Now, if you're trying to make a point, trying to educate people, in other words, trying to raise awareness, and you're very knowledgeable on a particular subject, and the conversation goes into that realm, whatever it is, maybe you're a health expert, maybe you're a political expert, maybe you're a historian, they start talking about the history of slaves, and you find out, black people weren't the only slaves. The word slaves actually comes from the word Slavic, because the Slavics were slaves of the Roman Empire, and they were the first slaves, white people. And they may actually know their statistics, and they may try to turn it into debate about how much you know, or you may try to do that. Debate people and argue with people all the time, just so you can be right, just so you can get that adrenaline rush of the fight. Get very passionate about arguing with people. And people think, well, you're really strong-minded, strong-willed. You're strong-headed. Some people will respect you for that. You may relish on that admiration. But underneath it, you're just trying to understand, and you want to brainstorm and trade thoughts so you can get a deeper level of understanding. Doesn't have to be so fiery and filled with anger. It can just be a matter of fact. Well, let's investigate. Let's find out. Let's Google this. Oh, wow, I didn't know. Okay, I stand corrected. There's nothing wrong with that. Save face. But don't act like you know more than you do. And certainly, they say don't act like the smartest guy in the room. Don't play dumb either. Nobody respects a dumb person. Be reasonable. Being reasonable is being fair. And when you're fair with people, people will be fair with you. When you express your intention and your true disposition, your values become revealed. And when people know your values, they know where you stand. And when people know where you stand and where they stand in relation to you, there's a real clear relationship. They know that you trust them, or they know that they can trust you. And ultimately, all relationships are built on trust. When you can't trust somebody, you don't relate to them. The beginning of bonding is built on trust. So if somebody's overly judgmental, opinionated people tend to be overly judgmental. That's not being authentic, because you're not expressing your true value system. You're just reacting. Express your true disposition. Well, the reason why I'm angry with this thing is because the Armenians, we were massacred. So I don't, there's some reason underneath it. For me, it was my kindergarten teacher kept calling me a gook and a chink and said my kind doesn't belong here, separated me from other children, made me sit in the corner of the classroom all day while the other kids played, put me down every single day. So when someone said anything about my race, I became very sensitive, became very defensive because of the feelings that I had when I was 5 years old. But once I worked through those emotions and realized that it wasn't about me, it was about her problems, her insecurities, her fears. She was actually afraid of me. And it wasn't about me at all. In fact, most people were not anti-Chinese. They wondered why I was so angry all the time about it. They're actually very embracing of my heritage and my culture. It's only a few people that made that an issue, and I projected that onto everybody. Became very political minded. Thought I knew about politics and fascism and things. This is what I grew up with in high school. And I didn't want to be like that. That's not who I am. I was an angry person with a chip on my shoulder. So going to college, I actually had a good time. I actually celebrated everybody. Became the party guy. Became a networker. Talked to everybody and anybody. I realized I can get along with anybody. So I gave up being opinionated unless someone asked me for my opinion. And I gave my best educated opinion. Or if I felt a certain way, I'd say, this is how I feel about it. But I didn't have to make a drama over it. Didn't have to make a movie. Didn't get a film crew together, some lighting, and make a drama out of it. Where's the camera? Why are you getting so dramatic? You get where I'm going with this. When you have authentic expression, you're going to come from a place of love. You're going to come from a place of contribution. You're going to come from a place of integrity. You're going to come from a place of wanting to make an impact. You're going to be transparent and confident in who you are. You can tell when a person's authentic because they carry themselves with integrity. Because the only real meaning in life is the expression of love. And that's all anyone is really saying behind it all is I love you. When you're able to hear that in people, then you know they're being authentic. You can sense and feel the honesty. This is Dr. Spencer Coaches. I sure hope that helps. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.